I have a reed here that works pretty well. You can see the side slip's good. It's got decent definition. I don't think I pointed this out, but the shorter blade, when you cut the reed, you clip it on the block, the shorter blade will always be at the top. You want to make sure the shorter blade, see how it's shorter, is facing you, and the longer blade up here is away from you when you play the reed. Always has to be like that. Otherwise the reed doesn't play very well. It's a lot of resistance. You know, it's got a decent blend area. You can see that there's some definition in the blend because the cane is rather hard. It's got strange qualities, so I have to define it. But there's a decent enough blend. We can play it. It's not bad, you know, it plays alright. But I want to make it just slightly easier to play. I suggest that your knife be, use a finer stone for this, because you don't want jagged edges on the burr. And we are going to barely touch the reed. I mean, we are barely touching. And usually when you finish the reed, it's really in the corners. Depending on the cane. Alright, I've got to line this up. I'm having trouble here. There we go. See, there's nothing coming off. Barely coming off. And this is really the art of finishing the reed, is that you take very little off. And this is what makes reed making so difficult. Yeah. Little changes have big consequences in reed making. I'm essentially just polishing the surface of the reed. Nothing more than that. I'm sticking in the corners. Corners really have a nice quality, especially with a vibrant gouge or a weaker gouge. You want to make sure that the corners are nice and thin. But don't press. Never press when you finish. Very light. And you won't see too much of a difference, but it will be there when you play the reed. See, that changed the reed dramatically, and I don't know if you can hear it, but the tone changed and the way it plays changed quite a bit. And I'm going to just let this set. I don't want to play with it too much because it's working alright. We'll pick another reed here. Here's another one. And the side slip is okay. It's important to have that side slip. So let's try playing this guy and seeing what we get. It's got some harshness to it that I don't like. So I'm going to try to get rid of that. And instead of going toward the corners of the reed, I think I'm just going to work right in this area. In the corner of the blend area. That usually helps with the tone when it gets rid of that hardness out of it. Once again, barely touching. And you will find that when you do this, when you approach a reed this way, now it needs patience, right? You've got to be patient. It's not fun. But if you approach a reed this way, oftentimes you will get much more out of it than just by, doing a lot of bold scrapes. Barely anything comes off. Now I'm going to try to introduce some tone. And usually this works well when you when you're working the corners. It's an interesting relationship between the back of the heart and the tip. At least I found it to be that way. So I haven't removed very much, very little. Let's see if that changed it at all, made it sound a little better. Yeah, it helped it quite a bit. It got rid of that hardness, That hardness is due to the strength of the cane or the gouge. And I know I've said this before, and you're probably getting tired of it. This area right in here, this area right here, in the corners, when you have really strong gouge, strong cane, you kind of have to massage this area a little bit more to get that nice tone, right? You get the nice tone out of the reed. Otherwise, if it's too blended in this region, in this area of the tip, and the cane is hard, it's going to have a very harsh sound. It's going to be strident. Now the opposite is true. I know I say this often. This is very important to understand, is that when the cane is very vibrant and vibrates quite a bit, you kind of have to focus on the corners of the tip. This part, the end corners of the tip, just like I did with that first reed. That will help compensate for the way the reed's vibrating. It really makes the notes smoother and the sound better. But for this reed, right in this area, right here, is where we focus our energy. And sometimes we have to go a little further toward the middle if the reed is very, very strong. You still want to have a blend region, but there's got to be definition. And that helps with the sound of the reed. Let's do one more reed. This reed, it looks like a nice piece of cane. I mean, it looks golden. Usually those golden pieces are nice pieces. But it may be a little bit too open. Now you see there's plenty of blending here. See all that blending? Right? It's not really defined, is it? It's not defined because it's a different piece of cane. I'll play it and you'll hear why. It's not quite soaked. You can see how this reed is really blended. I had to soak it because it's dried out. There's a lot of blending, not a lot of definition, mostly blend. That's because the cane vibrates a lot more. There's more of an opening. Everything else seems to work okay. So we're going to finish the tip, and we're going to stick to the corners. And this should help, because it is a softer piece. Barely anything's coming off, right? Like next to nothing. When you're on the stage, or you got to play a concerto, or you got a big recital, or you get a big solo, and the reed is close, doesn't quite make it, but it's very close. This is how you have to do it. Very, very carefully. You're not removing hardly anything. And it does change the reed. You'd be surprised. So next time you go to rehearsal, you're out there and you're working on your reed, do it very, very carefully, very lightly. And that changed the reed quite a bit. Even articulating it sounds different. Those three reeds just give you an idea of what to do when you're on the stage. And it may seem unusual to remove so little amount of cane, but it does have dramatic results. And if you try doing this, I think you'll notice it. And it'll be better because you won't ruin the reed, essentially. You will feel the reed change as you do these little, tiny little scrapes, and then you'll know that you're either scraping in the right place or you're not scraping in the right place without removing too much cane. Give that a shot, and I think it's going to work for you and make you sound a lot better. Good luck with that.